A ruthless billionaire, a homeless virgin, and the child he demanded she abort, but love refuses to die. Part 1. She stood outside the glass tower for 20 minutes before her legs finally obeyed. The building didn't just scrape the sky, it owned it, slate gray and merciless, like the man who'd built it, like the man whose child she carried. Emma Reyes pressed a hand to her stomach, still flat at 8 weeks, still her secret, and forced herself through the revolving doors. The lobby smelled like wealth, marble, leather, something floral she couldn't name. A security guard glanced at her threadbare coat, the duct tape holding her left sneaker together, and his expression shifted from indifference to suspicion. "I'm here to see Marcus Hale," she said, hating how small her voice sounded. "Do you have an appointment?" "No." "But then I can't help you." He'd already dismissed her, turning back to his desk. Emma's throat tightened. She'd practiced this, prepared for resistance. But standing here, in this temple of glass and money, she felt every bit the homeless girl she was. No address, no job, no plan beyond the truth growing inside her. "Tell him it's about the night at the Harbor Charity Gala," she said louder now. "3 months ago. Tell him Emma needs 5 minutes." The guard's eyes narrowed, but something in her desperation must have registered. He picked up the phone. She didn't hear the conversation. Her pulse was too loud. When the elevator doors opened on the 42nd floor, Emma's hands were shaking. The office was all windows. Manhattan stretched below like a kingdom, and Marcus Hale stood at its center, back to her. Her phone pressed to his ear, dark suit, broad shoulders, the kind of presence that made rooms feel smaller. "Cancel it," he said into the phone. "I don't care what Chen thinks. If he can't meet my terms, he can take his infrastructure deal elsewhere." He ended the call without goodbye and turned. Emma forgot to breathe. He was exactly as she remembered. Sharp jaw, dark eyes that missed nothing, that same controlled intensity that had unraveled her completely 3 months ago. But there was no recognition in his face, no warmth, just cold assessment. "You have 3 minutes, Marcus said. "Start talking." She'd imagined this moment 100 times, 1,000. In some versions, he smiled, remembered her name. In others, he was angry but fair. She hadn't imagined this. This nothing. "You don't remember me." It wasn't a question. "Couldn't, should I?" The words landed like a slap. Emma felt something crack inside her chest, but she straightened her spine. She'd survived worse than his indifference. "Harbor Charity Gala, October 15th. You were the keynote speaker. I was serving champagne." Something flickered across his face. Annoyance, maybe. "I attend 40 events a year. I don't catalog the staff." "We talked," Emma pressed, heat rising to her cheeks. "You asked about my degree. I told you I had to drop out of Columbia. You said you respected anyone who—" "I say a lot of things at those events." Marcus glanced at his watch, the gesture dismissive. "If you're here for a donation, my assistant handles—" "I'm pregnant." The words detonated in the silence. Marcus went very still. His eyes locked onto hers, and for the first time, she saw something real in them. It's a calculation, assessment, and beneath it all, something that might have been fear if men like him allowed themselves to feel it. 2 minutes left, he said quietly. "I suggest you use them wisely." Emma's nails bit into her palms. "It's yours." "Interesting claim." His voice was arctic now. "How many other men have you made it to?" The accusation burned, but she didn't flinch. "None. You're the only person I've ever—" Her voice cracked. "It was my first time." "Convenient." He moved to his desk, pressed a button. "Security? I'm not asking for money." The desperation in her voice stopped him. "I just thought you should know. That you deserve to know before I—" She couldn't finish. "Before you what?" Emma's hand moved to her stomach again, protective. "There's a clinic On East Houston. They do it for free if you qualify. Oh, wait, I have an appointment Friday. She watched his face carefully, looking for any sign of the man who'd held her that night, who'd touched her like she was precious, who'd whispered against her skin that she was beautiful, brilliant, worth so much more than she believed. That man wasn't here. Then I wish you well with your decision, Marcus said flatly. He picked up his phone again, done with her. Emma felt tears burning behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not here, not in front of him. She turned toward the elevator, each step an exercise in dignity she didn't feel. Miss, he paused. What did you say your name was? She looked back. For just a second, she let him see everything. The hurt, the hope she'd been stupid enough to carry here, the love already wrapping around the tiny life inside her. Emma, my name is Emma Reyes. Her voice was steady now. And I won't bother you again. The elevator doors closed between them. Marcus stood frozen, staring at the empty space where she'd been. His hand was still raised, as if to call her back. He lowered it slowly. On his desk, his phone buzzed. His lawyer. The Taipei merger. A crisis that would cost millions if he didn't handle it in the next hour. He answered it, but his eyes stayed on the elevator, and something in his chest, something he'd thought dead for years, had started to ache. Emma didn't cry on the subway. She'd learned years ago that tears were a luxury. They blurred your vision, made you vulnerable, attracted the wrong kind of attention. She waited until she reached the shelter. St. Anthony's Mission sat wedged between a bodega and a check-cashing place in the South Bronx. And the building had probably been beautiful once, red brick, arched windows, but now it just looked tired, like everyone inside it. Emma slipped through the side entrance, avoiding the common room where dinner was being served. She could smell something with tomatoes. Her stomach turned. The women's dormitory was on the third floor, 40 beds arranged in neat rows, each with a small locker and a prayer card taped to the headboard. Emma's was number 27, tucked in the back corner by the fire escape. She sat on the thin mattress and finally let herself break. The sobs came quietly. She'd learned that too. Crying loud enough to disturb others meant looks, questions, judgment. She pressed her face into her pillow and let 3 months of hope drain out of her. Emma? She looked up to find Sister Maria standing at the foot of her bed, holding a tray. The nun was in her 60s with kind eyes and hands weathered from decades of service. I brought you dinner, Sister Maria said softly. You missed the call. I'm not hungry. The baby might disagree. The nun set the tray on the bed. Pasta, bread, and apple. Want to tell me what happened? Emma shook her head, but the words came anyway. I told him. The father. He didn't even remember me. Sister Maria sat beside her, the mattress dipping under her weight. She didn't offer platitudes or prayers. She just listened. I thought maybe, Emma's voice was barely a whisper. I thought maybe he'd care, not about me, but about, she touched her stomach. I'm so stupid. You're hopeful, that's different. It feels the same right now. Sister Maria was quiet for a moment. And then, what are you going to do? Emma stared at the tray. The pasta was getting cold. The clinic appointment is Friday. I should just, it would be easier, smarter. Would it? I don't have anything, sister. No home, no job, no way to take care of a baby. You have yourself. The nun's voice was firm now. And that's never nothing. Emma wanted to believe her, but believing required a kind of strength she wasn't sure she had left. Marcus didn't leave the office until midnight. The Taipei merger was handled, the crisis averted. His lawyer had praised his focus, his precision under pressure. Marcus had smiled, accepted the compliment, and immediately forgotten it. His penthouse was dark when he arrived. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park, but he didn't turn on the lights. He poured 3 fingers of scotch and stood in the darkness, watching the city pulse below. I'm pregnant. It's yours. He'd had women make claims before, threats disguised.
If you're enjoying the story so far, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow and lets me keep bringing you more amazing love stories. All right, back to the story.
As opportunities, his legal team had handled each one efficiently. NDAs, settlements, problems eliminated before they became public. But something about Emma Reyes had burrowed under his skin. Maybe it was how she'd looked at him, not with greed or calculation, but with something that resembled disappointment, like she'd expected better from him. Or maybe it was the way she touched her stomach, protective, already loving. Marcus drained the scotch and reached for his phone. "I need everything on an Emma Reyes," he told his head of security. Mid-20s, was working the Harbor Gala in October. Start with employment records and work backward. How far back? As far as you need to go. He ended the call and poured another drink. The penthouse felt too big, too empty. It had been designed to impress, all marble and steel and carefully curated art. But standing here alone, Marcus could admit what he never said aloud. He'd built a temple to his own isolation. His phone buzzed, a text from his half-sister Lauren. "Lunch tomorrow? I need advice about the foundation gala." Marcus typed back, "Can't. Handle it yourself." Three dots appeared, then disappeared. Then, "You're going to die alone in that tower of yours, you know that?" He didn't respond. Lauren was right, of course, but being right didn't change anything. Marcus had learned early that caring about people gave them power to destroy you. His mother had taught him that lesson when she abandoned him at 8. His father reinforced it when he drank himself to death, leaving Marcus to build everything from nothing. Love was a liability he couldn't afford, so why couldn't he stop thinking about the girl who'd stood in his office, pregnant and terrified, asking for nothing? The report arrived at 6 a.m. Marcus read it over coffee, his jaw tightening with each page. Emma Reyes, 26, former Columbia student, full scholarship, biology major, 3.9 GPA. Withdrew during junior year when her mother was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Spent the next 18 months caring for her until she passed. No other family, no inheritance. Medical bills had consumed everything. Current address, St. Anthony's Mission, a homeless shelter. Employment history, sporadic. A catering jobs, retail, whatever paid cash and didn't ask questions. The gala. She'd been hired through a temp agency, disappeared after the event, and never collected her final paycheck. Marcus stared at the photo clipped to the report, her Columbia ID from 4 years ago. Younger, hopeful, everything bright and unbroken in her eyes. He remembered her now, not just from the gala, but from that night. The way she'd flinched when he touched her shoulder, how she'd apologized for not knowing which wine was which. The conversation that had started as his escape from a tedious event and evolved into something else. She told him about her mother, about the degree she lost, about feeling invisible. He told her she wasn't, that he saw her, and then he'd taken her to his car, to his penthouse, taken everything she'd offered and more. When in the morning she'd been gone. No note, no number. He'd convinced himself it meant nothing, that she meant nothing. Now she was pregnant, living in a shelter, planning to terminate because she had no other choice. Marcus picked up his phone. "Sir?" His assistant answered on the first ring. "Clear my schedule," he said, "and get me the address for St. Anthony's Mission." Emma was folding donated clothes in the shelter's sorting room when Sister Maria found her again. "There's someone here to see you," the nun said carefully. Emma's hand stilled. "Who?" "He says his name is Marcus Hale." The shirt Emma was holding dropped to the floor. She found him in the shelter's small lobby, looking absurdly out of place. Today's suit was navy blue, probably worth more than every item in the building combined. He stood with his hands in his pockets, studying a bulletin board covered in job postings and NA meeting schedules. He turned when she entered, and something in his expression had changed. The coldness was still there, but underneath it, recognition, memory. Emma, hearing him say her name, sent something painful through her chest. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "I remember you now." His voice was quiet. "From that night, not just from yesterday. Congratulations. I need to talk to you, privately." Emma glanced at Sister Maria, who gave her an encouraging nod. Against her better judgment, Emma led him to the small garden behind the shelter, really just a patch of concrete with some potted plants and a bench. Marcus didn't sit. He stood facing her, and for the first time since she'd met him, he looked uncomfortable. "I had you investigated," he said, and Emma's stomach dropped. "Of course you did. I know about your mother, about Columbia, about—" He gestured vaguely at the shelter. "All of it. So now you know I'm not a con artist, just pathetic." She turned to leave. "Don't." His hand caught her arm, gentle. "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean, Marcus?" The exhaustion in her voice surprised them both. "Why are you here?" He released her arm but didn't step back. "The baby, if it's mine, it is. Then I have a responsibility." Emma laughed, the sound bitter. "Yesterday you were calling security. Today you have responsibility? What changed?" "I remember you now," he said again, and this time there was something raw in his voice. "I remember that night, what we—" He stopped, jaw working. "You told me it was your first time. I should have been more careful. It takes two people to make a baby, Marcus. I'm not blaming you." "Maybe you should." He exhaled slowly. "I came here to make you an offer." Here it comes, Emma thought. The payoff, the NDA, the price of his conscience. "I don't want your money," she said. "I'm not offering money." Marcus met her eyes. "I'm offering marriage." The world tilted. "What?" "Marry me," Marcus said, like he was proposing a business deal. "Let me give the baby my name, my protection. Let me give you both a life that doesn't—" He gestured at the shelter. "You can't be serious." "I'm always serious." Emma stared at him, looking for the catch. "You don't even know me, and you clearly don't want a child." "What I want is irrelevant," Marcus said. "A child is coming, my child, and I won't let it grow up the way I did." There was something in his voice, old pain, carefully buried. Emma felt her anger soften despite herself. "This is insane," she whispered. "Probably." He pulled a business card from his pocket, held it out. "Think about it. You have until Friday." The clinic appointment. He was giving her a choice, she realized. Him or the alternative. Emma didn't take the card. "And if I say no, then I'll respect your decision." His eyes held hers. "But I hope you won't." He set the card on the bench between them and walked away. Emma stood in the garden long after he'd gone, staring at the small white rectangle that held his private number. Sister Maria appeared in the doorway. "That's quite a man." "He's offering to marry me," Emma said numbly. "Mine for the baby." "And what does your heart say?" Emma touched her stomach, feeling the truth she'd been avoiding. "My heart says I'm already in love with someone who doesn't know how to love me back." "Then you have a choice to make," Sister Maria said gently, "between what's practical and what's possible." Emma picked up the card. She had 3 days to decide the rest of her life. Emma didn't call. For 2 days, Marcus's business card sat in her locker at the shelter, burning a hole through her awareness. She'd take it out, stare at the embossed numbers, then tuck it away again. Thursday night, she lay awake on her narrow bed, listening to the symphony of the dormitory, snoring, coughing, someone crying softly 3 beds over. Her hand rested on her stomach, where a life no bigger than a raspberry was growing. What do I do?" she whispered to the darkness. The baby, of course, didn't answer. At 3 a.m., Emma gave up on sleep. She slipped out to the fire escape, where the night air was sharp with approaching winter. The city hummed below, indifferent to her crisis. She pulled out the card. Marcus Hale had everything: money, power, a last name that opened every door in New York. He could give her child opportunities she couldn't even imagine: safety, education, a future that didn't start in a shelter. But he'd also looked at her like she was a problem to solve, a responsibility to discharge, not someone to love. Emma's finger hovered over her phone. The clinic opened at 8. She could still make her Friday appointment. End this before it became real, except it was already real. Had been since the moment she'd seen those two pink lines. As she dialed before she could stop herself, Marcus answered on the second ring, voice alert despite the hour. "Emma, were you sleeping?" she asked. "No." A pause stretched between them, loaded with everything unsaid. "I need to know something," Emma said finally. "If I do this, if I marry you, what exactly are you asking for?" She heard him exhale. "A chance to do the right thing." "That's not an answer. What do you want me to say?" "The truth." Her voice was steadier than she felt. "You don't love me. You don't want a family. So why?" "Really?" The silence lasted so long she thought he'd hung up. "Because I know what it's like to be unwanted," Marcus said quietly. "I know what it does to a child. And I won't," his voice caught. "I won't do that to mine." The raw honesty in his words cracked something in Emma's chest. "Okay," she whispered. Okay? I'll marry you." The words felt surreal leaving her mouth. "But I have conditions." "Name them." "I'm not signing away my parental rights. We raise this baby together. Or not at all." "Agreed. And I want to finish my degree. If I'm going to be tied to you, I'm not going to be useless." "You're not—" He stopped. "Agreed. Anything else?" Emma closed her eyes. "Don't make me fall in love with you." The words hung in the air between them, vulnerable and devastating. "Emma, I mean it, Marcus. I'm already halfway there, and it's going to destroy me. So just don't be kind. Don't be gentle. Keep your distance, and we'll both survive this." "I can do that," he said, but something in his voice sounded uncertain. "Good." She was crying now, silent tears she was grateful he couldn't see. "When do we start?" "Tomorrow. I'll send a car at 9. "Where are we going?" "City Hall," Marcus said. "We're getting married." The car that arrived at St. Anthony's Mission at precisely 9 a.m. was a sleek black Mercedes that made every head on the street turn. Emma stood on the sidewalk in the only dress she owned, a simple navy blue shift she'd worn to her mother's funeral. Sister Maria had pressed it for her, tried to make it look less worn. "You don't have to do this," the nun said for the third time. "Yes, I do." Emma clutched the small bag holding everything she owned. "For the baby." "And what about you?" Emma didn't have an answer for that. The driver opened the door. Inside, Marcus sat in another immaculate suit, this one charcoal gray with subtle pinstripes. Crisp white shirt, silver tie. He looked like he'd stepped out of a boardroom, not on his way to his own wedding. Their eyes met, and something complicated passed between them. "You look nice," Marcus said. "You're a terrible liar." Emma slid into the car, hyper-aware of the space between them. "Let's just get this over with." The drive to City Hall was silent. Marcus worked on his phone, fingers flying over the screen. Emma watched Manhattan slide past the window, wondering if she was making the biggest mistake of her life. "I had my lawyer draw up papers," Marcus said suddenly. "Prenuptial agreement. You should read them before we—" "I don't want your money, Marcus." "Nevertheless." He handed her a tablet. "You should protect yourself." Emma scanned the document. It was surprisingly fair, generous even, monthly allowance, trust fund for the baby, full tuition coverage for Columbia, and if the marriage ended, well, she'd receive a settlement that would set her up for life. "You're very thorough," she said. "I'm careful." His eyes met hers. With everything. Was that a warning? A promise? Emma couldn't tell. City Hall was crowded with couples, young ones giggling with excitement, older ones holding hands with quiet joy. Emma and Marcus signed forms in silence. Two strangers engaged in a transaction. The ceremony took 7 minutes. "Do you, Marcus James Hale, take this woman?" Emma barely heard the words. She was too aware of Marcus standing beside her, rigid and controlled. When it came time to exchange rings, simple platinum bands his assistant had somehow procured, his hands were steady. Hers shook. "You may kiss the bride." Marcus hesitated, and Emma saw something flicker in his eyes. Uncertainty, maybe. Then he leaned in, his hand gentle on her jaw, and pressed his lips to hers. It was meant to be perfunctory, a formality. But the moment their lips touched, Emma remembered. The gala, the back seat of his car, the penthouse, the way he'd kissed her that night like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. This kiss was nothing like that. It was careful, controlled. It still set her on fire. Marcus pulled back, his eyes dark and unreadable. "Mrs. Hale." The name sounded foreign, impossible. They signed the marriage certificate in silence. Marcus's penthouse looked different in daylight. The elevator opened directly into the apartment, a security feature Emma remembered from that night 3 months ago. But then it had been dark, romantic, softened by alcohol and desire. Now it was just intimidating. "I've had a room prepared for you," Marcus said, she leading her down a hallway. "The master bedroom is at the other end. We'll maintain separate spaces." Of course they would. Emma tried not to let the disappointment show. The room he showed her was bigger than the entire dormitory at St. Anthony's. King-sized bed with white linens, walk-in closet, ensuite bathroom with a soaking tub, windows overlooking Central Park. "Is it acceptable?" Marcus asked. "It's a palace," Emma whispered. "The closet has been stocked with clothes in your size. If you need anything else, tell Mrs. Chen. She's the housekeeper. She comes weekdays." Emma turned to face him. "You thought of everything." "I tried." He stood in the doorway, not quite entering, keeping his distance, like she'd asked. "I have a board meeting at noon. I'll be back late." "Mrs. Chen left food in the kitchen if you're hungry." "Marcus." Emma's voice stopped him. "Why are you doing this? Really?" He was quiet for a long moment. "I told you. I know what it's like to be unwanted." "Were you? Unwanted?" His jaw tightened. "My mother left when I was 8. Just disappeared one day. My father blamed me. Said if I'd been better, smarter, less of a burden, she would have stayed." His eyes met hers, and Emma saw the boy he'd been, abandoned and aching. "He drank himself to death by the time I was 16. I inherited nothing but debts and the certainty that I was fundamentally unlovable." "Marcus." "So no," he continued, voice hard now. "Our child won't feel that. Won't wonder if they were wanted. Even if this," he gestured between them, "isn't conventional." Emma's eyes burned with tears she refused to shed. "You're not unlovable. You don't know me well enough to make that assessment." He stepped back into the hallway. "Get some rest. The first trimester can be exhausting." He was gone before she could respond. Emma stood alone in her beautiful prison, one hand on her stomach, and wondered what she'd just done. She spent the afternoon exploring the penthouse like a thief in a museum. Everything was expensive, exquisite, and utterly impersonal. The art on the walls was the kind you saw in galleries. Abstract pieces chosen by a decorator, not a person. The kitchen was all marble and stainless steel, barely used. The living room had furniture that looked like it had never been sat on. Only Marcus's study showed signs of life. Papers scattered across the desk, half-empty coffee mugs, a worn leather chair that had molded to his shape. And Emma stood in the doorway, not quite brave enough to enter. "You're allowed in any room," a voice said behind her. She jumped. Mrs. Chen stood in the hallway, a kind-faced woman in her 50s with salt and pepper hair pulled into a neat bun. I didn't mean to snoop," Emma stammered. "You're the lady of the house now. You're not snooping?" Mrs. Chen smiled. "I made lunch. Are you hungry?" They ate together in the kitchen. Soup and sandwiches, simple and warm. Mrs. Chen didn't ask questions, but her presence was comforting. "How long have you worked for Marcus?" Emma asked. 10 years since he bought this place." Mrs. Chen refilled Emma's water glass. "He's a good man. Difficult, but good." "You're the first person who said that. Most people only see what he wants them to see." The housekeeper's eyes were knowing. "Ira, but I've seen him break his own rules." "What rules?" "The ones about not caring." Mrs. Chen stood, collecting their plates. "You should rest. Growing a baby is hard work." After she left, Emma wandered to her room and collapsed on the bed. It was so soft she sank into it like a cloud. She meant to stay awake, to think, to plan. But exhaustion pulled her under, and she dreamed of a little boy with dark hair and his father's eyes asking why he wasn't wanted. Emma woke to darkness and voices. She sat up, disoriented. The bedside clock read 11:47 p.m. She'd slept for hours. The voices came from the living room. Marcus and someone else. A woman. Emma crept to her door, opening it just enough to listen. "Absolutely insane, Marcus. Even for you." The woman sounded furious. "You got married? To someone you barely know." "It's handled." Lauren, his half-sister. Emma remembered her from the report. "Handled? Is that what we're calling it?" Lauren's voice was sharp. "Who is she? Where did you meet her? Please tell me this isn't some yacht girl trying to trap you with a—" "Don't." Marcus's voice went cold. "Don't finish that sentence." A pause, then quieter. "Oh my God, she's pregnant. That's none of your business." "You're my brother, Marcus. Of course it's my business." Lauren sighed. "Does she know?" "Know what?" "That you're incapable of letting anyone close. That you're going to keep her at arm's length and wonder why she's miserable." "We have an understanding," Marcus said flatly. "An understanding. How romantic." Lauren's footsteps moved toward the door. "I hope she's stronger than she looks. She's going to need to be." The elevator dinged. Silence fell. Emma stood frozen in her doorway, Lauren's words echoing in her mind. "Does she know that you're incapable of letting anyone close?" She did now. Emma was about to retreat to her room when Marcus appeared in the hallway. He'd loosened his tie, rolled up his sleeves. He looked exhausted. Their eyes met. "I didn't mean for you to hear that," he said. "It's fine." Emma wrapped her arms around herself. "Your sister's right anyway. This is insane." "Probably." He didn't move closer, but something in his gaze softened. "Are you okay? Did you eat?" "Mrs. Chen fed me. I'm fine." "Good." He started to turn away, then stopped. "Emma?" "Yeah?" "For what it's worth." He seemed to struggle with the words. "I'm glad you said yes. To this. To us." There was no us, Emma thought, but she nodded anyway. Marcus disappeared into his room. Son and Emma returned to hers. She lay awake for a long time, one hand on her stomach, wondering how you survived loving someone who was determined not to love you back. Outside, the city glittered like a promise it had no intention of keeping. The first week of marriage was an exercise in polite distance. Marcus left before Emma woke and returned after she'd gone to bed. They communicated through Mrs. Chen and carefully worded text messages. "Doctor's appointment scheduled for Tuesday. Driver will take you." Thank you. Let me know if you need anything. I'm fine. They were roommates at best, strangers at worst. On day 8, Emma woke at 2 a.m. to the sound of someone in the kitchen. She found Marcus standing at the counter in sweatpants and a t-shirt, the most casual she'd seen him, staring at a sandwich like it had personally offended him. Can't sleep, she asked. He turned, surprise flickering across his face. I didn't mean to wake you. You didn't. The baby did. Emma moved to the refrigerator, pulled out the ginger ale Mrs. Chen had started stocking. Morning sickness doesn't care about mornings. Is there anything I can do? Not unless you can take over being pregnant. She poured the soda, noticed his sad excuse for a sandwich. Bread, turkey, nothing else. That's depressing. It's food. It's an insult to sandwiches everywhere. Before she could stop herself, Emma was pulling out ingredients. Move! Marcus stepped aside, watching as she assembled a proper sandwich. Turkey, avocado, tomato, lettuce, a touch of mustard. She cut it diagonally and slid the plate toward him. You didn't have to do that, he said. I know. Emma made herself one too, then leaned against the counter. Can I ask you something? All right. Why are you avoiding me? Marcus's jaw tightened. I'm not. You are. Emma kept her voice gentle. I know we agreed to keep our distance, but we live in the same apartment. We're having a child together. We can at least try to be, I don't know, friends? Friends. He said the word like it was foreign. Is that so impossible? Marcus was quiet for a long moment, studying his sandwich. I'm not good at this. At people. I noticed. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. My sister says I have the emotional range of a calculator. Lauren seems nice. She's persistent. He took a bite of the sandwich and something softened in his expression. This is good. My mom taught me. Emma felt the familiar ache at the mention. And she said if you can't do something with love, don't do it at all. She sounds like she was a good person. The best. Emma's throat tightened. I wish she could meet the baby. She would have been such a good grandmother. Marcus set down his sandwich. Tell me about her. What? Your mother. What was she like? Emma hadn't expected that. She studied his face, looking for the catch, but saw only genuine curiosity. She was, light, Emma said softly. That's the only way I can describe it. Even when she was sick, even at the end, she found things to be grateful for. She made me promise I'd finish school, find something that mattered. She touched her stomach. I don't think she meant this. Maybe she meant exactly this. Their eyes met, and something passed between them. Understanding, maybe. Recognition. Your turn, Emma said. Tell me something real about you. What do you want to know? Anything that's not in a business magazine? Marcus considered this, fingers drumming on the counter. A tell, Emma was learning, that he was uncomfortable. I can't sleep in silence. I need music or white noise or I just lie there. What do you listen to? Mozart, Chopin, sometimes jazz. He looked almost embarrassed. My father called it pretentious, said I was putting on airs. Your father sounds like he was cruel. He was drunk. There's a difference. Is there? Marcus's expression shuddered. It's late. You should rest. And just like that, the moment was over. Emma watched him retreat to his room, plate in hand, and wondered how many times he'd had to close himself off to survive. The next morning, Emma woke to find a note on her nightstand. It's a doctor's appointment at 10. I'm coming with you. M. She read it 3 times, heart doing something complicated in her chest. Marcus was waiting in the living room, dressed in one of his perfect suits, scrolling through his phone. He looked up when she entered. You don't have to do this, Emma said. I know. He pocketed his phone. I want to. The drive to the doctor's office was quiet, but it felt different than before. Less like silence, more like two people learning how to exist in the same space. Dr. Patel was a warm woman in her 40s who showed no reaction to Marcus's obvious wealth or the odd dynamic between them. She treated them like any other expecting couple. "Everything looks good," she said, studying Emma's chart. "Blood pressure's perfect. No concerning symptoms." "Just the nausea," Emma said. "Well, that should ease up in the next few weeks." Dr. Patel smiled. "Ready to see the baby?" Emma's breath caught. "You can see it?" "Not much yet, but we can check the heartbeat." Emma lay back on the exam table, suddenly aware of Marcus standing beside her. His hand found the back of her chair, not touching her, but close. Dr. Patel squeezed gel onto Emma's still flat stomach and pressed the ultrasound wand against her skin. Static filled the room. Then, a sound, fast and strong, like galloping horses. "There we are," Dr. Patel said. "That's your baby's heartbeat." Emma stopped breathing. It was real. Until this moment, some part of her hadn't quite believed it. But that sound, fierce and insistent, was undeniable proof of life. She looked up at Marcus. His face had gone very still. He was staring at the monitor, where a tiny flutter of movement showed the baby's heart beating. Something raw and unguarded crossed his expression. Wonder, fear, something that looked almost like pain. "Marcus," Emma whispered. His hand found hers and squeezed. Hard. They sat there, two broken people listening to the heartbeat of the life they'd created. And for the first time, Emma thought maybe, just maybe, this could be more than a transaction. Marcus was quiet on the drive home. Emma wanted to ask what he was thinking, but something about his expression stopped her. He looked like a man wrestling with something too big for words. They were almost back to the penthouse when he finally spoke. "My father told me I'd ruin any child I had," Marcus said, eyes on the road, "that I had too much of him in me. Too much anger, too much need, too much emptiness." "You're not him," Emma said fiercely. "How do you know?" "He pulled into the building's garage, killed the engine." "You barely know me." "I know you're here. You showed up today. You're trying." Emma turned to face him fully. "That's already more than he did." Marcus's hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. "I don't know how to be what that baby needs." "Neither do I," Emma admitted. "But we'll figure it out together." "Together?" The word seemed to cost him something. "Yes, together." She reached over, covered one of his hands with hers. "That's what this is, Marcus, whether we planned it or not." He looked down at their joined hands, something complicated working across his face. Then he turned his palm up, laced his fingers through hers. They sat like that for a long moment, the garage silent around them. "When I heard it," Marcus said quietly, "the heartbeat, and I thought, what if I love it? What if I let myself care? And then what? And then I become my father, or worse." His eyes met hers, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen. "What if I destroy it just by being near it?" Emma's throat tightened with emotion. "You won't. You don't know that." "I do." She squeezed his hand. "Because you're afraid of it. Your father never was." Marcus studied her face like he was trying to memorize it. "You have more faith in me than I deserve. Maybe you deserve more than you think." Something shifted in the car, the air growing heavier, charged. Marcus's gaze dropped to her lips, and Emma's breath caught. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. The kiss was nothing like City Hall. This one was real, hesitant at first, then deepening. Marcus's hand came up to cup her face, gentle and reverent, and Emma felt herself melting into him. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Marcus pressed his forehead to hers. "Emma," he whispered, and her name sounded like a prayer. "I know," she said. "I know we're not supposed to do this. We're married. I think we're allowed." "You know what I mean." She pulled back just enough to see his eyes. "I asked you not to make me fall in love with you." "I know." You're failing spectacularly. A real smile crossed his face. Small but genuine. I'm sorry. Liar. They sat there in the dim garage, hands still joined, and Emma felt the walls between them beginning to crack. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. She wandered out to the living room and found Marcus on the couch, laptop open, glasses perched on his nose. He looked younger with them on, more human. Can't sleep? He asked without looking up. Baby's doing gymnastics. Emma settled into the chair across from him. What are you working on? Merger, proposal, boring stuff. He closed the laptop, removed his glasses. Want to watch something? You don't have to entertain me. I know, but Mrs. Chen keeps telling me I need to spend time with my wife. He said it like the word still felt foreign. Apparently we're terrible at being married. Emma laughed. We really are. They ended up watching a nature documentary about penguins. Marcus's choice, which surprised her. He seemed genuinely invested in the narrative of two penguins raising their chick through an Antarctic winter. They mate for life, Emma said, watching the penguin couple huddle together against the cold. Seems inefficient, Marcus said. What if you picked the wrong penguin? What if you picked the right one? He looked at her, and something in his expression made her heart race. That seems statistically unlikely. You're very romantic, you know that? It's been mentioned. He shifted closer, not quite touching, but near enough that she could feel his warmth. Emma, yeah, I'm glad you're here, in case that wasn't clear. Emma's chest tightened with emotion. I'm glad I'm here too. They finished the documentary in comfortable silence, Emma gradually drifting sideways until her head rested against Marcus's shoulder. His arm came around her automatically, like it belonged there. When she woke hours later, she was in her bed, tucked under the covers. Marcus must have carried her. Emma touched her lips, remembering the kiss in the car. Akon and fell back asleep, smiling. The next few weeks fell into a rhythm. Marcus started coming home earlier. They'd have dinner together, sometimes takeout, sometimes Emma cooking, once in a while Marcus attempting to help with disastrous results. How did you burn water? Emma asked, staring at the scorched pot. It's a gift. Marcus surveyed the damage. I'm better with hostile takeovers than hostile kitchens. They'd talk, really talk, about her plans to return to Colombia, about his latest business deal, about the pregnancy, which was becoming undeniably real as Emma's stomach began to curve. Marcus had started reading pregnancy books. Emma found them stacked on his nightstand one night when she was looking for him. What to expect when you're expecting. The expectant father, each one bristling with post-it notes. She found him in his study, working late as usual. You're reading pregnancy books, she said from the doorway. He looked up, almost sheepish. I want to know what's happening, what you're going through. Marcus Hale, are you actually trying to be a good husband? The jury's still out. But he was smiling. Emma crossed to his desk, and he pulled her into his lap without hesitation. A casual intimacy that had developed between them over the weeks. Chapter 12 had some interesting information about second trimester symptoms, he said. Oh God, which ones? Increased. He paused, color rising in his cheeks. Energy, among other things. Emma felt heat flood her face. You're reading about my sex drive? I'm reading about all of it. This book is very thorough. I hate you. No, you don't. His arms tightened around her waist, careful of her growing stomach. One, you're stuck with me. Legally binding stuck, Emma agreed. The worst kind. But when he kissed her, there was nothing binding or legal about it, just heat and want, and something that felt dangerously close to love. They were taking it slow, most nights still sleeping in separate rooms, though Emma sometimes woke to find Marcus asleep in the chair by her bed, laptop open on his knees. Or she'd fall asleep on the couch and wake in his arms as he carried her to bed. Little intimacies, careful steps towards something neither of them wanted to name. Emma? Marcus said against her lips. I think we're getting good at this. At kissing, at being married. Emma pulled back to look at him. His hair was mussed from her fingers, his expression open in a way it rarely was. We really are, she whispered, and she almost believed it could last.